Ratna, moderator of this today's session. Thank you all of you that join with us at this moment. First of all, I cordially and honorably welcome Sony Vasandani from Queensland. She's the founder and chief executive officer of Sunshine Teacher Training Institution and preschool specialist and the training consultant. I welcome her. Next, I cordially welcome Mr. Janak Kamalgoda, the founder and the CEO, South Asian International Higher Education Institution. He's an author, he's a good entrepreneur, and a public speaker. He's the size the get this sponsorship of this session. Next, I welcome our staff members, all the lecturers, training teachers, then the audience of Sai YouTube, public at large. Again, I welcome all of you. Our theme, the topic is 7 trends in preschool education. It is very important because we want to develop and build up our teachers to get their strength and awareness in this field. Therefore, we want to know what happening everywhere, not only Sri Lanka but also other countries. We want to develop the citizen who suit to the 21st century. That's why our expectation, the purpose. I want to mention this actually doing the free of charge. Mrs. Sony Vasandani. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity for us. Then Mr. Kamalgad also given the sponsorship for this. You remember that RPL also he gets some forward decisions to train our teachers. Right. Okay. I'm not going to talk too much. The childhood is the foundation of the man. If it is the mistake, totally the social problems will arise. So remember it. Then I cordially invite to deliver speech, the valuable speech. I know that definitely I guarantee this is the very the best speaker and the presenter. You can see throughout some video clips. Sony, Mrs. Sony, I cordially invite to deliver your speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kumara. First of all, thank you all for having me here. It is a pleasure to share what I know from this side of the world. Just to correct you a little bit, Mr. Kumara, I'm no longer in Queensland. I've moved to Melbourne 4 years ago, so I am in Melbourne. And my center, Sunshine Teachers Training, is in Indonesia. And yes, we are quite active on YouTube, so you can find us there as well. And I think that might have been the way you found me in the first place. Yeah, I'm happy to be sharing, and I hope you get great value from today's sharing. And I was hoping to see many so we can have an interactive session, but it looks like, I think, Kumara, you will have to tell me what the questions come up at the end, because I didn't turn on my YouTube, so I can't see the comments. Yeah. So let's get started without much ado. I'm going to now screen share. So if it's possible, please let me have access to the screen sharing. Hang on. Just give me a minute. Share my screen. There you go. Okay, I hope you all can see my screen now. Yeah, if you can give me a thumbs up, Kumara, so I know that, just do that so I know that you are able to see me and you're able to hear me well. Okay, that's great. Great. Now, I have turned on the, what you call the subtitles, just in case, you know, anyone of you find it difficult to understand what I say. And I have a mixed accent from different countries. I'm Indian, born in Indonesia, and then now in Australia. So, you know, it's quite a mix of accent that I have. Yeah. So let's get started now. 7 trends in preschool education. Now, first of all, when I was asked to speak of the word trend means something that comes and goes, you see? But what I'm going to be sharing is not something that I think will go away. It is more, instead of the word trend, you can think of it as a focus, okay? This is what is the focus today in preschool education, right? I don't think many of them will be gone for a long time. I think they are there to stay because there is a lot of research that backs these focus in preschool education. Now, Kumara tells me that there are also primary school teachers. So even if you are in early primary, this will apply, or even late primary. There is a what you call a commonality, yeah, between what is being taught in preschool and primary. Okay, so let's get started. Let's think of this as focus, even though I've put the word trend over here. I have to see, there it is. Okay, so just a little bit about me. Like I mentioned before, now I live in Melbourne, but I was born in India. Born in Indonesia and raised in India for just 14 years. So I have been, you know, I started the preschool with my own children as the first 2 students, and I was invested in giving them the best. Yeah. And in 1992, when I started, it started in a garage. So like I said, my children were my first 2 students, and I had 3 others of my friends. And the day I started, I had only 5 children in the garage of my house. Then over the years, it just grew because there was a need for a good preschool then. And in 2005, I was running 4 centers, and there was this need for me to get quality teachers, you know, teachers who are knowledgeable and trained, but it was very difficult. So I decided, you know, I have to train my own teachers. And in the process, I started training other teachers. So then I started this Sunshine Teachers Training. So we have been in existence now for 16 years. And in 2007, like I said, I was already the owner of 4 preschools and a teachers training center. And I was also called overseas to Excel Preschool in Auckland, where I helped a sick daycare and converted the whole entire curriculum to include the New Zealand curriculum of Te Wahiri with a little bit of the Eastern curriculum that I have, and also with Montessori. Yeah, something that works well for them. Until now, we have, you know, ever since I moved to Melbourne about 10 years ago, I decided to take my courses online because I miss teaching. I miss interacting with my students. We have 2 centers in Jakarta, but I missed that. So I thought, why not do online? I was ahead of my time. Now everything is online. But I started this about 5 years, 6 years ago, we went online. Yeah. So I'm still doing that till today. We have diploma courses, Montessori short courses. I also like to help parents and teachers from the rural areas in Indonesia to have access to the knowledge and some training in Montessori, because I feel, like Kumara said, you know, early childhood is the most important time of the children's life, and parents are clueless what to do, and they tend to raise children the way they have been raised, which, if they've had a good experience, they've had very supportive parents, it may turn out well for the children. But in most cases, you don't see that happening. Plus, we live in very stressful times today, and, you know, parents more react than act, and they don't think about how important it is. So that is my mission, to help people to understand the importance. Yeah. So I also started this smart preschool business in Australia, where I help people to set up their own preschools. So they get to do it the right way, plan from the start. And I hold their hand. It's a 1 year, 1.5 years till they start running the preschool. And I have clients in Africa and in Indonesia at the moment. Yeah, and there's one more from Philippines who will be joining me soon. It's not much difference where you are in the world, whether you're in Africa, you're in, any part of the world. Preschool is all about the children, about doing your best for the children. So, if you have everything right, you plan it right, you will do well. Yeah. So let's get back to the focus, the trends, if you want to call it, but I would like to call it here the focus in preschool. The first one, as you all know and is familiar with, is the use of phonics. Now, phonics we use today to teach children to read, because English is, especially the English language, but you can apply it in different languages. Like Indonesian is also quite a phonetic language, and the Chinese are also using phonics in their language. So there are different countries who have adapted and applied this phonic teaching with the phonics method to read, because we know today that this is working. Yeah. So you must be familiar with it as well. And of course, it requires training, but yeah. So a good reader will usually be a good academic learner. Yeah. But, first, the child has to learn to read. Only after the child learns to read and is able to read well, will she or he have the confidence to then apply or, will then be able to apply the reading or read other subjects. Yeah. And when they're able to read well, then they're able to learn better. A child who struggles in learning to read or in reading, if they have come to the first grade and they do not know what they need to know, it will be very difficult to then expect them to catch up with all areas, because even if it's mathematics, you still have to read and understand what the instructions are. Yeah. So it is very important. That is really, really important. Now, in spite of knowing that reading is so important, today, even till now, there are so many children who are struggling to learn to read. That is why the focus is there in phonics, in teaching children the phonetic way. Maria Montessori, over 100 years ago, she had introduced phonics in her first school, Casa de Bambini, and she did it because she had scientifically observed children and noticed that they are able to grasp it very easily when you teach them or use phonics to teach them. So she developed this whole phonetic system. Yeah, that it's like a long time ago. So at that time, I think she was way ahead of her times, and not many listened to her or understood what she was trying to say, right? Because everybody had their own system of doing it, and then they just didn't think it was that important. Fast forward to today, now early childhood education experts have started to look into phonics, and they have started to assess. There's a lot of research about Montessori's phonetic method and other phonics, and look at children about how they learn to read through phonics. It's very step by step, rather than teaching a child, this is a cat, C-A-T, cat, B-A-T, bat, and then you say B-A-L-L, ball. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, right? So with phonics, if you teach the child step by step in a very structured way, they get it and it's easier. So early childhood experts have started to look at phonics, and they're helping a lot of children to read today. Now, the steps to teach phonics, just to go into that a little bit, yeah. We have like first, what is taught, the letters of the alphabet. So students, first of all, are taught the first sound of the alphabet and then the last sound of the alphabet. So they're familiar with all the letter sounds. And then from there, they start to build words with the sounds that they have learned. So it's like a consonant, vowel, consonant. So it's like k, a, t, cat, b, a, t, bat. They put together with a vowel in the middle and 3-lettered words, etc. And then from there, once the child is well versed, then the child is taken to the next step of learning blends and diagraphs. Yeah. And from there, they are again taken to, I'm sure you will be learning all these things in your course as well. If you are not, I think it will be a great addition, Kumara, to include these steps to teaching phonics, because I feel that when student teachers come out or complete their diploma or their or they graduate from any early childhood education courses, it's very important for them to know these so that they are able to implement it to the children and teach it the right way. Yeah, because if you teach it like this step by step, it's going to be so easy for the child, and you will be surprised how easy the child will grasp. Okay, and then again, we have to remember, we have to do it in a fun way so the child is not stressed, so they learn better. And when they learn to read and they enjoy the reading process and they love the reading process, they will become lifelong learners, which is what we want them to do. Yeah, and they will excel in other areas as well, because the reading is so important in every subject. So it is important, I feel, for teachers to get trained and to understand the system and also know how to teach. Yeah, now to know the phonics and learn how to teach it is also two different things. So it's not enough that you know about the phonics, but you also know how to present it to the children, how to get them to learn it in a fun way. Yeah, and in Montessori, we do that a lot. Now, before I went into Montessori or understood anything about Montessori, I was doing things the conventional way. I also used to implement, a lot of fun activities in the class and teach them everything. But when I learned Montessori phonics, I learned it the Montessori way. It was like, it blew my mind. After that, I changed all my schooling system. My preschools, I had 4 preschools. I changed them all into Montessori preschools. I got all the materials. I taught them in that, and it was such a big difference. It made an amazing difference. Yeah, that's why you will keep hearing me say Montessori, Montessori. So there are today many different phonics programs, and you can use either. You can, get trained in either. It's not difficult to get trained online these days. And these are some of the popular ones, yeah, that you can use to learn. Okay. So that's phonics. Now the next focus is learning with nature. Now more and more, people today, children are just getting stuck in the house, especially now, of course, with the COVID, but even before that, more and more children are just getting stuck. Parents are taking them one class to another, back to back, and making them sit at home because maybe they live in the city and there's not much nature around or whatever it is. So as a result, what happens is that with being stuck indoors and not being connected with nature, when they're not connected with nature, then what happens is you see a lot of children having a lot of anxiety. They have tantrums, they get depressed, and they get all stressed out. And it's really not pleasant, yeah, because there are a lot of children today, even the young children, they're like really in a bad shape and one of the reasons is because of this, because they're stuck indoors with parents who just take them back to back to back for classes and not allowed to go out and play or to connect with nature. So nature plays an important role, and this again, a lot of research have gone into this, is that nature plays an important role in children's cognitive development, yeah? And it also stimulates creativity and problem-solving skills. What you can get out of nature, or what children can learn out of nature, is a lot. And these are things that they will never be able to learn in a classroom. You cannot teach them this in the classroom and say you have to learn impulse control. It's not possible. You have to practice it, and the best place to practice it is outdoors. So impulse control, if they have impulse control, and they can also learn sustained attention, which is like focus and concentration, yeah, and patience. They learn patience. They learn self-discipline. They learn to develop their short-term memory, and they also learn to develop their working memory and concentration. So you can see all these things are so important. Yeah. Um, a child playing in the puddles, say, for example, she's there, she's happy. And when you're happy, you learn so much more. Yeah. She might have to control her impulse jumping into a deep puddle because of fear of not knowing. Yeah. And she has to be really focused where she is going, because there might be pebbles or there might be things along the way. So that's why she gets that sustained attention. She has to be patient. She has to walk with patience. If it is in the rain, hold the umbrella. Self-discipline is there, and all these other things just comes into play when they are connected with nature and when they're outdoors playing. Yeah. Nature also helps with, we know all these things, they calm children. Not just children, actually, they also work beautifully with adults. So even if you as a teacher, if you are stressed and you are depressed, or you have anxiety, or you have any issues with your inner self, your emotional self, the best thing to do is to go out, take a walk, hug a tree. Over here they say you hug a tree, that also is like grounding. Sit on a grass, go and just breathe some fresh air, go by the sea and just enjoy that little thing. Yeah, it's very important for adults too, and teachers should also be connected to nature. Otherwise, if you are stressed inside, then you will also be passing on that stress to your children, and that is not a nice thing. So nature helps everybody. Yeah, we don't utilize it so much, maybe because we are in cities with buildings and all that, but still there are ways that you can connect with nature. It helps you with increasing attention, it is with reducing anxiety, and also it helps with depression. So it is very important to connect with nature. Yeah. Now, how can you incorporate, like I mentioned, a lot of us, our preschools are not really in the suburbs, or they're not really in a place where you have a park nearby, or you have access to nature, or maybe you are in small places, yeah, and there is not much that you can do about it. But there are people, because people have realized this is a very important thing. So now there's a lot of changes that preschool owners have made with their learning, yeah, with children's learning in their school. So activities, some preschools, they take their children to field trips. Field trips are great, yeah. At one point of time, initially I used to take them once a year. Then I thought, why once a year? Why not take them every term? So we used to go 4 times a year, which is even better, because the children remember it, clearly the last time they have been, and it's not so new again for them, and they know how they need to behave when they're out in a field trip, and they're excited and they look forward to it. So that itself is very good for the children. Yeah, something to look forward to. So interacting with animals, when you go out for field trips, you can take them to the farm, you can take them to the zoo. I don't really like zoo. Farm is better because you see animals free. Yeah, zoo, you see them all in cages and you can't really touch them. So in farm, you can feed them, interact with the animals, going to bird parks where you're allowed to get the birds to sit on you, and things like that, or feed the birds. And then also just simply going to a open ground and running around and playing sports with no agenda. Just take a ball and just go there and kick around the ball, play ringer ringer roses, or do anything simple. It's really good for the soul. Yeah. And then exploring a botanical garden. Of course, that is beautiful, because children love colors, and they love colors, they love flowers, and there's so much to talk about, and there's so much learning as well when you are out there. Yeah. So that's research has also gone to show that with nature there's all these things. So preschool, those who, of course, 4 times a year you take them out for a field trip, okay, that's fine. But then we also need to find ways to bring nature into the classroom if we can't go out every day, right? So simple gardening, you can have a gardening box in the classroom, you can have a sandbox outside, even if it's a little thing. You can tell children, on the way to school to collect a few natural items, collect leaves, twigs, stones, shells, whatever, bring animals into the classroom, and also a fish bowl. Now, in a Montessori classroom, it is very common to see a fish tank, and children take turns to feed the fish. They also keep animals. Sometimes in a Montessori classroom, you see a dog as well, who will just be sitting in the classroom for them, and and they play with the dog, they feed treats, etc., and the dog just sit. It's very good for children to be connected with animals as well. Yeah. A long time ago, we were told like animals are dirty, and how can you make a child hug a dog, whatever. But over here in Australia, parents, they like to have dogs when their children are growing up, because it helps their immune system to become stronger when they are with animals. They are exposed to different things, different whatever, virus, bacteria, whatever it is, and it helps the immune system to become stronger. So it's not uncommon to see many of them have dogs over here. But of course, when you have a dog, you have to maintain hygiene and all that stuff, give it a bath once a week, etc. And that's also a great activity for children, great learning for the children to learn to take care of pets. It helps reduce, ADD, ADHD symptoms if they have any. It helps their cognitive skills. It helps them to get increased concentration and all that. And they learn so much, whether it's a fish or whether it's a guinea pig or whether it's even a rat, they will learn a lot, because there will be a lot of conversations around that learning. Yeah. So it will be good for them. Now, use of technology. I really don't know if the translation or the subtitles are correct or not, but well, I do not know how to turn it off at this point, so we will just continue. Yeah. So use of technology. As you know, today with COVID, the use of technology has become even more important. Yeah. I hope this one is just, use of technology has been important for a long time. And in my school, even when, with my preschools, even last 20 years ago, I had in my classrooms a computer. In a Montessori classroom, they only put one computer in the classroom, and children take turns to work on them. Yeah. But in other preschools and stuff, the preschool that I had, I used to have like about 6 computers in a room, and I had a special teacher to come and teach the children. Now, the question is always there around technology. Is technology good or bad for children? How much technology, and what to use, and how to use it with young children, and what can we teach them using today's technology? So there is a lot of questions around this, but then again, people are settling down to choosing what is best. Yeah, of course, how much technology to use. Research have shown that 1 hour a day is like max for preschool children. Now, this includes their TV time at home. So if you're having computer classes on a daily basis, or children using computer, it's important to educate the parents and let them know that, we're already doing this in the school, please don't do it at home. Now, what technology to use? People are using iPads. In some preschools, they use even their phones, and then they also have the desktop. Yeah. Now, not just children are using technology, but we teachers are also using technology, and parents are also using technology. And this has become a common thing to use to keep in touch or to work together with parents. Yeah. So parents, like in Indonesia at the moment, they're big on WhatsApp. So in the classroom, especially now, the teachers are available on WhatsApp with the parents, So parents can, it's a group, like, for the nursery class, they have a WhatsApp group. For the kindergarten class, a separate group. So parents can communicate with the teachers and ask questions, etc. Yeah, it's very important. And the schools in Australia, they go more on emails, and they do more of they have this software in the school. There's a very good software called Tadpole, which is used, and there are many other softwares today. This is the software that I was exploring to use some time ago, and I looked it up, and they're still offering it, and they're really good. So there is a way for teachers to communicate with each other. There is a way to upload children's attendance, and parents can see, the comments or the day's work that the teachers will upload over there at the end of the day, lesson plans or the plan for the whole month, or newsletters or something like that. And parents can access them over the phone. So there are different types of softwares that you can explore as well. And depending on the software you choose, it might be the reason why I didn't go into it many years ago was because I was way ahead of my time. So parents were not really ready to use technology. And also because it's something that you have to have a subscription, and the setup and all that, I thought, oh, I'll be doing all this work myself. It'll be hard work for my teachers and all that to learn. So I did not do all that. But today it's become important. However, you find a way that works best for you to communicate with your parents and also with your children who are learning at home. And how do you use it with its young children? We will get to that. And what can we teach? I will also explain in the next slides. So what technology is about in early childhood education is that, what do we teach them? Okay, so children can learn that internet communication or information and communication technology, they are all products that are designed to communicate for specific purposes and all that stuff. So they get to understand because they see their parents and they see everybody around them on the laptop, on their phones, etc. So this way they get an understanding. If you introduce ICT in the products in the schools, then they get to understand. And when the parents are on the phone, etc., they get to understand what the parents are doing. Yeah. So if mommy says, I have a meeting on Zoom, they get to understand, okay, she's going to be on her laptop, and laptops are used for meetings, etc. And children can also learn to identify, like I said, they see other people, so they learn to identify the different technology. It's good for them to be up to date with all of that. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, it is also good for teachers to support children's learning and early childhood development. Now, children who have special needs over here in Australia, in the special needs schools, they use a lot of these iPads because children who are non-verbal, they are able to use software to express themselves, to communicate and to express their emotions, which is really cool and really good. Now, I have a step-grandson who has the opposite of Down syndrome. So it's called a Dyggve syndrome. And he goes to a school over here, and it's amazing the way he communicates with it. And I have seen it. It's like really good. So I'm really for technology in ECE, even with normal children. You have shy children in the class, etc. You can use this. Can you tell me, if you're happy, you're sad, etc. You get to know their feelings, their emotions. It's easier for them to for them to express themselves sometimes if they are shy. So teachers can use it for in many different ways to support children's learning. Like if you're teaching them the phonics and you don't want to invest in all these things nowadays, DVD, etc. is quite outdated. You go onto YouTube and you search for a phonics song, you play it in the class, etc. So it helps in many different ways. Just use it positively. Yeah. Now, how much technology? Like I mentioned, an hour a day is what the research has shown. More than that is not good. Yeah. It'll be nice to use some kind of screen if you're using desktop so it doesn't hurt your eyes. And do all what you need to do to take care of it. Yeah, they're going to get into it anyway. So you might as well teach them the right way to do things. Okay. And what technology to use? Different schools use different things based on what they are they're able to afford, I suppose, and what is the common thing to use. Yeah, there are schools over here that give laptops to all the children, and so every child gets a laptop or an iPad that they have to carry back and forth to the school, so the lessons are all there. That is in the primary years, not in the preschool. Yeah, I'm talking about the older kids. In the primary years, you just do whatever it is in the classroom, and you don't give them iPads and stuff to take home. Yeah. And what you can use it for, you can use it to teach children literacy and language development. You know, when I had my computers in the school, I had a teacher who would come and give them lessons. So it would start with, you know, hand-eye coordination, controlling the mouse, and then we had certain games that will help them practice the mouse and hand-eye coordination so that they can learn. And at the same time, they were learning, you know, numeracy, mathematics, and also logical thinking skills. And then they can do digital play. We also had what you call that, paint, you know, digital painting and all that they did. And you can also do art and creativity. There are a lot of different softwares today are there that you can choose from. And some of them may be free, but you have to be careful of the ads that pop up. Yeah. So I would rather that if you're choosing a particular thing, like when I did it, I invested in the Jumpstart preschool. Jumpstart preschool has got amazing software for children, and it's all in a DVD format. And now maybe it might be online. You can log into it and you can do it. So if you're using phones, don't get the free apps. I wouldn't recommend it. Try to get a paid version of something so you don't get ads pop up. Yeah. So ads can be very distracting. You know how it is, right? So it's nice to invest in something with the children, and it's not really that expensive nowadays to do all these things online. And like I said before, it's good. It's you can use it to support special learning needs, and children. I mean, teachers can use it to share children's progress with parents, or even, you know, amongst themselves. So every teacher knows, like if you're in a primary school teacher, maybe the head teacher would know how that child is doing in every area. There can be a system how you can share. Yeah, there now you have Word documents, you have so many different ways to share. You have Google Drives, you have all these things to share. The software that they have for preschools and primary schools are really good, because once a teacher uploads, then other teachers are able to access everything that all the teachers. So it's like a collaborative sharing of progress, the children's progress, which is really good. So if a parent has to call you up and ask you about the progress of a child, you don't have to say, oh, I have to ask this teacher, or I have to ask that teacher. All you need to do is log in and you get all the details of the child there, and you can discuss the child. Yeah. So a lot of amazing things are there with technology. Now with technology, how to use it, I suggest, and also it is there, that, you know, you have to allow the child to have full control of the technology itself. Don't give the child an iPad and then sit there and say, wait, let me tell you what to do. You press this and you press that and you do this and you do that. So that means you are controlling the technology. No, what you need to do is show them how to use it and then give it to them so they have full control of it as to what to do. And you stand there and you observe. If they're not using it the right way, yeah, in Montessori, we say don't correct them, just observe, and then on another day, present it to them again. Maybe they have not understood what they said, or maybe they're just exploring. As long as they're not abusing abusing the equipment or the product, you know, if you're giving them an iPad, as long as they're not stepping on the iPad or banging it anywhere or not doing it, as long as they're just exploring and trying to see, observe them and let them have full control. There is a certain joy in, you know, and a certain confidence that will build if you allow the child to have control of the technology. Yeah. So that's important. Encourage creative uses of the ICT tools, like if it's a phone, don't just tell, okay, this is how you phone, this is how you chat. You can show them more with it, as in, okay, this is how we can look at the calendar, the creative uses of it, like, okay, let's see if we can, or even a digital thing about, creating a drawing or something like that. Yeah. And then facilitate the progression of ICT to capability. That means you must take them step by step into the learning of ICT. So don't assume that your child knows everything. You have to take them through step by step. So like I said, I was not confident in teaching them because I don't know, where to start. This was 20 years ago, close to 20 years ago. So I had a teacher who would come, someone who's worked with children, someone who knows how to get started. So she started with how to turn on and off the computer, and then how to use the mouse. And then this is the keypad, and then, the alphabet, the letters of the alphabet on the keypad and stuff like that. So step by step, and then you progress, you increase their knowledge. And then later on, it goes to word processors, and, you can teach them graphs and all that. It was amazing things that my children used to do. So if you're not really good at it, or that is not your focus, it's great to have someone else to do it. Otherwise, teachers will have to learn. In a Montessori classroom, they just use one program and they have one computer, and the children learn to take turns. Because in Montessori, with all the materials, also we just have one each, and that helps children to learn to take turns. Yeah. So that's how they do it. So you might have a different system in your school. Yeah. So implement a universal framework for inclusion with technology. Make sure that every child, gets access to it, not that the few of them, in every classroom, there are always these children who get all the attention, who are they're very verbal, they're very vocal, they get all the attention, they seem to know all the answers and all that. And there will be some quiet ones who just sit in the background and they don't get. So you have to make sure when you're using that every child gets access to it, every child gets their turn, and include, even if you have a special needs child in the classroom, make sure that they are able to be part of it. Yeah, it has to be. That is very important. And there are 4 principal guides. This is from the US. In the US, these are 4 guiding principles that they use. Like when you use technology with children, you have to use it appropriately and can use it as a tool for learning. And then not for playing and not for just YouTube watching. I see some preschools I've walked into, teachers who are just, showing some videos on YouTube or showing some stories or things like that, which is really pointless. Yeah, if it is something to listen, you're better off using the tape recorder for children to listen to. But if you want to take them to YouTube and stuff, YouTube, what they do is you go to one video and you watch it, and then they'll suggest you others, and that others may not be appropriate for them. Yeah, then it's too late. They get addicted with that. Okay. And the next guiding principle is that it has to be used to increase access to learning opportunities for children, for all children. Like if you're in your class, like I said, if you have children who is challenged, they're not able to write for any reason, then maybe, using technology can be used to give him that learning opportunity. Yeah. So it depends on the children. You have to make sure that it is used for that purpose as well, and make sure that everyone has access to it. It cannot be just some children, oh, I've taken it first, I want to watch this first and all that, and you are out of control. It cannot be like that. So you have to make sure that you rotate it and you make sure that every child is able to benefit from technology in your classroom. Okay. Guiding principle number 3, the technology may be used to strengthen relationships between parents, families, early childhood educators, and young children. This is already so important today because after COVID, now we are all there's a lot of remote learning happening, and this guiding principle is really important to help strengthen the relationship. You can use technology now to strengthen relationships with the children and the families and all of you together. It's very important. Yeah. And then technology is more effective for learning when adults and peers interact or co-view with young children. So when you give them control, like I mentioned before, give them control of the product itself, of the equipment. Yeah, let them be in full control. But that does not mean that you don't interact with them. That means it is more effective. If you have learned about scaffolding, yeah, you have to be there to help scaffold their learning so that they learn best. Okay, you can put them like in a Montessori classroom. We have 3 to 6 years old in a class. So the 5, 6-year-olds, they are quite good with the computer. So then they're encouraged then to help the younger ones, so that way they practice their leadership skills, they practice their teaching skills. And when they start to teach the younger ones, they learn more. Yeah, it always happens, even for us also as teachers. As we continue to teach, we also continue to learn. So that way they learn from each other as well. The 2-year-old will be more open, 2, 3 years old will be very open to listening from another child rather than from an adult. Because an adult is, in the classroom is like authority, whereas the child in the classroom, another child, is like a friend. Yeah, so they learn better. Montessori has discovered that children learn better from each other. Okay, so that is another reason that it's good to get children to interact with each other or to learn with each other. And in schools and primary schools, you can group them together for a certain project or a certain thing. But then again, you have to be mindful about the children in that group. It should not be one person doing it all, taking the lead and not letting the others have their turn or whatever. So a teacher has to have eyes all over her head and has to be very careful about all these things. Okay. So there are I came across this professional development courses for ICT use, in early childhood education. They offer free and they give you a certificate as well. And it's quite nice. So if you want to learn more about how best to use ICT in preschool education or even in primary school education, go ahead and sign up, and it's nice. Yeah, it's always nice to learn, and if it's free, why not? And you get a certificate, which is great. Yeah. Remote learning. Now this in itself, this I would say is a trend right now, and I hope it remains a trend. A trend is what, like I said in the beginning, a trend is something that happens and it will pass away, like fashion trend. It comes and it goes. So I hope remote learning is also going to go away, so children don't have to continue to do remote learning because they really love the interaction. But then again, what can we do now? I mean, with the lockdowns, with the situation with COVID, etc., this has become like, there's no other choice. We have to do this to continue to help children to progress. So success, there are some strategies that you can follow to help remote learning a success. I was once interviewed when the COVID started, do I think that remote learning is good for children, or learning through with technology is good for children, the Zoom sessions, the Zoom classes and all that. I said, look, it can be if you have proper strategies and if you follow the guidelines that I mentioned earlier, and also if you don't do for a long session, because you have to understand children cannot sit for long, right? So you have to understand the way children work, and you have to develop a relationship with the parents, because parents are going to be there in front of them. And so there are strategies that you can build around having a successful remote learning experience. The first thing I always tell is connect with the child. If you get a new child, or even with your own child, you're used to connecting in person, but online it's very different. So you have to learn to connect with the child, and the child should understand that you're connecting well. And this can be done through many things like doing games and, hide and seek, I'm hiding now, where are you, something like that. That way you build that relationship or connect with the child over the screen. Yeah. And then, you have to build a relationship with the families. Like I told you, they are going to be there to doing your work. Yeah. Helping their children. So they have to understand. And teachers tend to assume that parents will know what to do if they send the homework. Parents don't know what to do. Parents are best at nurturing their children, and they don't have much patience with their children when they're teaching their children. So it is important that you build that relationship and you also connect with the parents to ask, how are you doing? And what are the challenges that you're facing with teaching your children? And then help solve those challenges. If you can help the parents solve the challenges that they are facing when they are teaching children at home, then your remote learning parents will be like, oh my God, they understand me and they're doing so much to help me. You see, then they're not likely to drop out, because there was a school had a massive dropout rate after they started remote learning. And then there's another preschool who the teachers of which immediately connected with me and asked me, Miss Sony, now how do I make this work so that it can be a success? And we went over all these strategies and they implemented it. And their attendance, their their school is only for 80 children, and they have like over 150 children enrolled after COVID for the remote learning. Why? Because news spreads around. Parents are like that. They will share it on Instagram. They will share it in the social media. And now, because you don't have to be in that locality to join a preschool, you have to just be online. Parents from Malaysia, from Singapore are joining school in Indonesia. So, it can be a success. And then the next thing is I tell them, allow children to guide you. Always look at the child's interest. What is the child interested in? That will be your guiding thing. Then you plan your lessons around the interest. Yeah. Also work in small groups. So you don't have too many children and you can't observe them. Yeah, I always tell teachers to do a lot of observing. Even if it is on Zoom, you can observe. You can record the session. You can observe the child. Why did this child not participate? What is, what is it that is stopping? You can call up the parent. You can find out, and then you know how to increase engagement. And then also understanding that children are better off moving when they're learning. Then you can introduce activities that is with movement, music, dance, even if it is on Zoom. If you expect a child to sit like this for an hour and listen to you talk, or if you ask them questions, they're supposed to reply, not possible. Yeah. So it's very important to understand the child, understand that's why you're learning. To become preschool educators, you should be understanding that children love to move. They have to move to learn. They learn through exploration. They love music and they love dance. So you have to implement your lessons in a way that they love it. Then they will learn. Then they will listen to you. Yeah. Use props, a lot of props. Finger puppets are good. Use anything, any props that you can find around the house to teach them rather than showing them a sheet of paper. I saw some teachers, trying to show a sheet of paper to the children and say, this is A and all that. It's not going to work. Yeah. So send home learning kits. What you're going to teach for them, you send attractive learning kits. Now that they're not in the school, they're not using electricity and there's a lot of expenses that is cut down, use that budget or use that money to send home very attractive learning kits. So when the child receives it or the parent receives it, they go, oh, wow, they've taken so much effort to make this learning kit for my child. And then that becomes that, perceived value. Yeah. Get feedback, always get feedback and plan future lessons accordingly. So if anyone is doing remote learning, these are some tips you can always share to get them to be successful. Okay. Now the fourth trend or the fourth focus is movement and play. Like I said before, movement is so important. Children learn through movement and play. Maria Montessori said, play is the work of the child. And, you know, she was ahead of her time. At that time, children were just forced to sit and listen to the teacher. Even till today, there are so many schools doing that, which is so wrong, because children need to play and children need to move to be able to learn. Yeah. So movement and play are essential for the holistic development. So they develop their physical, fine motor, gross motor, their intellectual development, their social development, emotional development, and also they develop language. Yeah. So a lot of different skills children learn when they are playing and when they are moving. Okay. So why is play important? I'm sure you must be having this lesson as well in your course, because it's quite standard. All early childhood education courses now talk about the importance of play and what children learn when they play. So they invent, when children are playing, they invent scenes and stories. They're trying to make sense of the world, right? They solve problems, they negotiate their way through social roadblocks that they might be facing. They're trying to make a sense of the world that they live in. So if they see a mother and father, you know, at home talking or discussing about something, they might come home and they might enact, or they see the mother doing something in the kitchen, they might enact it over there to try to make sense of what it is. So the mother say, oh, I'm making for you breakfast, here it is. And the child will also try to do that to try to make sense of whatever the mother is, whatever they see in their world around them. Okay. If they see horse, they might come to school and they might do some imaginary play and imagine there's a horse and they might want to pet it and say, oh, so cute and all that. So they're trying to just make sense of whatever they're seeing, because the world is quite complex. There's so many things that they're seeing on an everyday basis. So they need to make sense of it. And the only way they can make sense of it is when they are playing. Yeah, it all comes up. They also release pent-up emotions. They learn to take risks. Even us as adults also, I mean, you know, when you are stressed or something and you have a hobby, say you go for tennis or something, and you play an hour of tennis, all your pent-up emotions get released and you feel so good. Okay. So we, at some point of time, we forget to play. Play has become something that only children does, but it's good for adults as well to play. Now, when children play, they also learn to take risks, and taking risks is very, very important. They learn about actions and consequences, and they learn to regulate their behavior as well. Yeah, because they will be playing with other children. So then they learn to behave, they learn to regulate their behavior. They learn, you know, like if they're doing something, they learn to take that little risk that's so important. That will help them in their life. These are all life skills that they need. Yeah, they need to learn, and they get it through play. Now, Mildred Parton's theory of play is my favorite because it helps you really understand how children play in the different age groups. I have seen teachers, you know, going to a 2-year-old and forcing them to play with the older kids. Now, if a child is just 2 years old and 2+ years old, you know, they are not really ready to play with other children. So these are the stages of Mildred Parton's theory of play, where you can see. So if you see a 2-year-old and a 2-year-old is happy playing alone, it's because they are in that age and stage. Yeah, this play develops, the style or the way they play develops with their age and their development. Okay, so if you see, say for example, you have a 4.5 years old who cooperative play is play with rules. Okay, children, you see 4-year-old, they'll gather together, they'll make rules. Okay, you have to do this, you cannot do this, you have to run here. They make their own rules. So that is cooperative play. Okay, now if a child is 4 years old and the child is not interested in, happy doing what they're playing on their own, no interaction, nothing with the other child. So if you see a 4.5-year-old who's doing parallel play, then you might get worried or might try to see what is the reason, etc. So it's very important for you to understand, you know, this age and stages of play, so that you will know how to intervene and you will know how not to force children into playing a certain way when they are not ready for it. Yeah. So it's very important. It's a good observation thing which you can know. And Mildred Parton's theory of play, you can find it anywhere online. You can learn it, and also I'm sure you must be having it as a lesson somewhere in your course. If not, just browse and you'll find a lot of information on that. Okay. Different types of play. Now, children indulge in very different play. Okay, there is a physical play. It's also good to observe what type of play they're playing, just so that you understand. Social play, where they're playing with each other, yeah, involving each other. Constructive plays, like with building blocks or something like that, where they're constructing something. Fantasy play, where they are imitating someone or something, or imagining something, becoming an astronaut, going to the moon or something like that. That can be fantasy play. Games with rules, those are older children. They'll make up their own rules and they will start playing. And then functional play. Functional play is like if they're taking a car, you know, and they're or a train, and they're going on the floor and they're doing choo 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 choo. So they're using the toy in the correct way, in the way that it's supposed to function. That's called functional play. And then exploratory play, that is exploring with different materials or different toys. Yeah, that's exploratory play. And then there's dramatic play, where they play, you know, I'm the mother, you're the father, she's a baby, or a doctor and, you know, and a sick patient. That's very common with children. So these are the different types of play that children indulge in. I personally, I love to watch children that play. Just makes me smile. I love to see the way, even if they're creating rules, what rules are they creating? Let them be free. Free play is always the best. Yeah. And they need to do, again, when they're doing all these things, it's because they are learning something, or they are trying to make sense of something, or they are trying to express their pent up emotions in some way. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So you can also see children who are troubled at home, they will come to the class through dramatic play. You can see what it is that is troubling them. You can learn a lot from children if you observe them at play. Okay, play again is the work of childhood. So how can you encourage play? Now, if you have small spaces in your preschool, you work in a preschool and you know you have very small spaces, how can you encourage play in your preschool in small spaces? Let me just have a sip. Okay. So you can create learning centers, play-based learning centers. Now in Montessori, we already have these learning centers. We have an area that is a practical life area, we have a sensorial area, we have language, we have math, we have culture. And in culture, we have different. So these are already play-based learning centers. And we have a lot of manipulators. So you can use manipulators. So if you're not doing Montessori, you can still have shelves in the classroom. One area can be all the art materials. One area can be all the building blocks. One area, you know, building blocks, Lego, all that thing. Another area you can put different things. So there are, you know, play-based learning centers. And imaginary play, you can have costumes and hats and everything, so they can dramatize their play. Okay. And then you can also play games together. That most schools do. They play games. Take play breaks. You go out and you play. Do that frequently. If you have especially children in the classroom who are quite hyper, like there is this one child who used to come to my school and never settle down. So I used to tell the mother, send him to school a little earlier so he can play more outside before he comes into the classroom. So for half an hour, he's outside in the play area, climbing on all these things. Yeah, and playing, they're freely playing with just someone to just supervise him, one of the assistant teachers. And then when all the other children come a little later, then he's ready to join, and you know, and then he's more settled. He has had that fill. Maybe that is a child who just needed to release all the pent up energy that he had, or emotions that he had. Yeah. You can also take your learning outside. If you have a tree outside, or if you have a park or something, you can take them outside and tell them, okay, today we're going to sit under a tree and we're going to do this. But movement is always good outside too, rather than making them sit. If it is older kids and they're able to sit, 5-year-olds and all that is great. They are able to sit and pay attention as long as you have something interesting going on. And then, of course, we have puppets. Puppets are used in all schools today, and it's very, very important. They also help, children. And when you use puppets, it should not be just the teachers using the puppet. You should give it to them to also use it and explore with it. Yeah. And then you can act out different things. Act like, maybe if you're learning about animals, you can act out how the animals move, etc. So that becomes like a play itself. And that also becomes like a lot of movement involved. Yeah. And the next one is increased assessments. Now, this has also become a focus in most preschools and even in primary schools. Yeah. So before, the assessment used to be only in academics. Yeah, how the child is able to read or not, or math, etc. But now we use a lot of assessments in early learning centers in preschools. So assessments are used to understand a child's learning style. So you get to see whether your child, that Howard Gardner's 5 learning styles, not 5, I think, no, there are 7 or 9 now, 9, I think. There are many learning styles, yeah. So you can see the learning styles of children. You can understand, it helps you to get to understand them, how they learn. And then you get to understand their interests. You get to assess their participation and experiences. Many preschools I see, like High Scope and all that, they don't really worry about the outcomes, yeah, whether the child is able to do this or not. What they see is whether the child has participated and has experienced. So they have key experiences, a whole checklist of key experiences that the child must be exposed to. So they assess the child based on their participation and key experiences. You can look it up. That's also very interesting. Then the stage that they are at with their learning, you can assess, where they are at, and then you plan the lessons accordingly, because it helps you plan. If you assess them, you know where they are. Rather than, there was a time when teachers were not concerned about what the children knew. They just had to do their job. This is the curriculum. This is what we need to teach. This is how we need to teach them. And everybody should get it. If they don't get it, that means they are lazy, or they are not smart, or they are poor, or they are, and then the complaints go to the parents, your child is not able to do this. All that is now out of fashion. Now, what's in trend is you assess the child. You see, the child learns with this style. What is their interest? Are they having the experiences to build up on their interest? What stage are they at with their learning? Then you make individualized learning lesson plans or activities for that child. Yeah. In Montessori, every child progresses at their own pace. And now people are beginning to realize that more and more, because there are these cartoons that show an elephant and a monkey, and there's a tree. And, you tell both of them, the elephant and the monkey, to both climb a tree. Who's going to be successful? Only the monkey, because he has the skills, whereas the elephant is never going to be able to climb a tree. So that is what our education system was like, even in preschool. We expect that our children, whether they are profiled as an elephant or a monkey, should do the same thing, which is not possible. So nowadays, because of that realization that every child is different, their interests are different, their learning style is different, so we have to make different lesson plans or activities for them. Yeah, so that's where assessments come into use. We also use to see if the child is ready for primary school. Assessments are also done. I used to do that in my school to make sure, and I made sure that the child is not just good at academics, but also socially ready to go to school. Because if they are not socially and emotionally ready to go to school, they might be super smart, but over there they're going to suffer because once they get into primary school, there's a lot of teasing, bullying, etc. So they have to have developed the social skills. Parents, of course, find it very difficult to accept when I had this one child who was socially really not ready for school, and when I had a talk with the mother actually told me, it's none of your business how my child does socially. Your duty is just to teach my child ABC and everything, and as long as the rest is up to me. Of course, I can't do anything, but I had to express what I had to express, and I'm quite blunt because all I take into consideration is the child, because who's going to suffer? The child is going to suffer. There was another parent the same way, and she also did not listen to me, but she was more polite, and we didn't have this kind of conversation. And then when the child is in 4th, 5th grade, she came back to me and she said, I wish I listened to you, because that child was really not socially ready. When they grow up, the children in the class, might be older and much more developed socially, and their thinking is different, everything is different. So assessing children for primary school should be a holistic assessment. That's my feeling anyways. And then when you're assessing the child is ready for primary school or not, you also will be able to see if they have any learning difficulties or developmental delays. And if you have children with special needs, assessing them will also help you be able to help them, okay, rather than just tell the parents, your child has special needs and they're good for nothing. I can't teach them. Take them to a special needs school. I never did that. I would do all that it takes to help that child learn in the best possible way. Yeah, unless it's beyond my capacity, then I will be not doing justice. In that case, then I, tell the parents. But otherwise, I try to do my best with children with special learning needs as well. You can modify lessons for gifted children, so that they don't get bored. Assessments, when you assess and oh, this child is able to do so much, why should he wait for the rest of the class? He's going to get bored. So give him something else that's more interesting that he is interested in. And then you can assess behaviors and skills, and also assessing vision, hearing, and speech is become very important. So assessment in preschool and primary school, they have all these different assessments. They assess the children in all different areas, okay? Assessment tools that are used is, of course, the usual observation. Many preschools, they have checklists and rubrics. I always had a checklist and rubrics because observation, you really need a skill to be able to observe. And it is very difficult for me to rely on my teachers who are very busy to sit and observe objectively, not subjectively. So I like to have checklists and rubrics for my teachers. But I also like to sit in the classroom. If a teacher tells me about any child who is, about a certain behavior of a child or something that makes me feel, okay, there's something here, I will drop all my work and sit in the classroom and observe them myself. Yeah, so that's very important. Portfolios, we also did a lot of portfolios. So you see checklists and rubrics, portfolios, parents assessment. Now all these things, we don't give grades. So it's a checklist whether the child is able to do or not yet able to do. Whether he's able to do, he has mastered it, or he is still learning, or he has not been introduced. That's how we assess the child. We don't put A, B, C, and we don't put any grades for children, okay? So it's only a checklist with the children have to learn, say, A, B, C, D, E, say, for example, okay? So in A, there will be 3 columns, and in each of the columns, like, have we introduced the letter A to the child? Yes, okay, we tick that box. Is the child practicing on it? Yes, we see the child in the classroom practicing it with a teacher or on his own. Then we tick the second box. And then we see on another day, oh, the child is able to see, to recognize the letter A, the sound, and is able to write. So then we tick the third box. So that means the child has progressed, has mastered that. So we just do that kind of checklist and rubrics. From the beginning, I was against giving children grades and marks and A and B, even before all these, new trends that has come out or new focuses, I had already done that. Reason being that in my school, when I was growing up, my teachers used to always give me grades, and I was always labeled as an average child in the class. And I was not given that opportunity to grow because they have put me in that box because I would not get more than 50% or 70% in certain subjects. So they didn't see that I was good at different things. They didn't do this checklist of stuff. They made me feel like I was really not good, really average. Yeah. So there was another teacher in my 9th grade who trusted and who believed in me and told me, Sony, you can do much more. And I believe that you can. And because she trusted in me, because she believed I could do it, I started, doing more. Yeah. So she encouraged. That's why I disliked putting children, even my own children, when they were in school and they had grades and stuff, I used to tell them, don't worry about the grades. If you come home with 70%, I'm happy. Most parents, they are, and teachers as well, they want their children to always get 100 marks in all the subjects. It is not possible. Not every child can be interested in all the subjects. Not every child can be good at all the subjects. And it's okay as long as they are progressing, they are learning, and they are able to meet up and they are not falling behind. It's all right for a child to get 70%, 80%. It's already very good, I think. Yeah. If they're falling behind, then I would take a look at what it is. Is it the interest? Is it, is it the way I am teaching them that they don't understand? You have to change your way of teaching if you see that a child is not meeting with the expectation, with your expectation. Yeah. And don't put an expectation this high for all children to get 100. It's just not possible. Okay. So assessments need to be bias-free. It needs to be done over a period of time. You cannot assess a children in an exam, a preschool child, even a primary school, annual exam, one exam, and they're supposed to get 90, and that is what, and that means they're good, or they get 40, and that means they are not good. It's not like that. Assessments today is done over a period of time. They are done over the whole term. Yeah. So they are assessed in their homework, they are assessed in their participation, they are assessed in the classroom, their homeworks maybe, and little tests that are given, or maybe even quizzes in the class. Then you get to know whether your child is doing well or not. That will give you a better assessment, yeah, to see where your child is at. And I always tell my teachers, if your child is not doing well, the problem is not with the child, it is with you. Your learning, your teaching style has to change. You have to modify the way you teach your child. The first thing is connect with the child, find out what their interest is, and then build lessons for that child based on his interest. So if you know a child is interested in cars and you're showing him math problems, yeah, that is talking about maybe water bottles or something like that, he's not going to be interested. So you have to modify your lesson plans and use cars instead, yeah, and that way his focus will be there, right? So that is how you have to teach a child. So when you assess the children, the objective is not just to grade them. The objective is not just to say, okay, this child has passed or this child has failed, but the objective should be to modify your lessons so that you can teach the children to become better, so that they can get you, so that they can learn. Yeah, that means something is wrong with your teaching style. So you have to find out what it is. Yeah, it takes a very good teacher to be humble and to be able to accept that it is me who have to change, and then change their learning style, etc., and see the progress in their child. So Maria Montessori talks about the spiritual preparation of the teacher. And when she talks about the spiritual preparation of the teacher, she did not mean spiritual as in religious, but she's talking about how the teacher has to always self-reflect and have to always self-assess and have to always be very humble to get down to the level of the child, to be able to teach the child, and that way the child will connect and will be able to learn. Yeah. Now in Montessori, we also do one-on-one assessments. It is very important. Teachers will need to learn to assess children. Now, assessing children is, I'm sure in your diploma as well, or whatever it is that you're learning, your courses, you will be learning about observations. Yeah, it's very important. It's become very important. Like I said, it's a focus today. It's not a trend. It's never going to go away. Trends are something that comes and goes like fashion, but focus is like, it's there to stay. Next is inclusive education. Inclusive education, the time, oh, okay, I've gone beyond time, I think. Yeah, no, this is okay. So inclusive education. Now, inclusive education has become also a focus today, where it is possible preschools and primary schools like to include children with special needs. Yeah, so of course you can't just accept any special needs child. You have to see if your school or the place, as a teacher, your classroom, if your classroom is able to meet or support the child. If not, you have to be very upfront about it, because you want to do justice to the children whose parents are putting you and trusting them with you to learn something. Yeah. And when you have that, then when you have the facility and you're able to include, then you have to wholeheartedly include them. So inclusion is a practice of educating and caring for children with disabilities and special needs in the same environment or same setting as typically their developing peers. Okay. Benefits of inclusive education. There's a lot of benefits. Every child likes to feel that they belong. Yeah. So even if they have special needs, it doesn't mean, if they have challenges, it doesn't mean that they feel differently from other children. They want to belong. So there is a lot of benefits, not for them, but also for you and also for other children. How for you? You learn more. You learn to become more humble. You learn to be more inclusive. You learn to try to include all the children. You learn to prepare lesson plans that is different for that children. So you continue to learn as well. Other children will learn about empathy. They will learn about caring for others, and they will learn acceptance, which is really important. Yeah. So you have to make sure that in your school, every child, yeah, even if the child has special needs, they have access to everything that you are offering. Like if it is a Montessori classroom, you have to make sure that the shelves are low enough for the child who is on a wheelchair or whatever to be able to access the materials. Or you might have to put up some materials for him to be able to access, or something like that. You have to modify your environment. And you have to make sure that they have the opportunity to participate in everything. Not that they're sitting in the corner and, because they can't sit on the floor, they're sitting in the corner and they're not participating with you. You have to make sure that you include them. Yeah. And then you have to make sure that they are supported in every way from their peers and also the adults in the entire school. Okay. And the last one that is a trend now, or rather a focus as well, is Montessori and other methodologies. So preschool, they do what they do, but they also like to include some aspects, if not all, of these other methodologies, because a lot of research have shown that these methodologies work. Yeah. And although they might not be able, like in Indonesia, a lot of preschools, they're not really Montessori preschools. They don't follow the entire philosophy, but they like to take aspects of it. I mean, it's okay if it works for you, but I'd rather that if you embrace methodology, you embrace it fully so you can see that it works well. But if not, you can use, like, for example, the phonics in Montessori is really great. I mean, it's a very step-by-step. It has the materials, etc. And if you want to use that for your children in your classroom, even though you don't have the Montessori classroom, and it helps the children to understand or to learn better, then why not, And in Reggio Emilia method, Here we have Montessori, we have the Waldorf, which is a play-based approach, and the Reggio. Now, the Reggio method is a project-based approach, and they have the art area is really amazing. They have like an atelier where they hang children's art and craft and all that. So many schools who are operating a different, their own conventional way or in any way that they're doing, then they have put aspects of, this Reggio in their school, and it looks beautiful. Waldorf is play-based. They're mostly into art and stuff. So you really can't, I don't know how, I'm not very familiar with that. Yeah. But these are the different approaches, and many preschools. Montessori has become really, really popular, even in the US now. I think they have got funding to build more Montessori primary schools, high schools, etc. Because we know today that children learn hands-on, even us as adults. Say, for example, you get a new phone tomorrow. What do? Nowadays, the phones don't even come with a manual inside, right? You will just turn it on and you will just explore. You're not going to go and find a manual online and look it up. And even before, when they used to give all these manuals when you buy a laptop and all that, you don't read the manual. Most of us don't read. Very few, maybe I would say 1 or 2% of the people might be reading manual back to back to understand how something works. What we do is we straight away gadget, we open the packaging, we turn it on, we start to manipulate it, and we say, oh, this works like this. Oh, it's asking me to do this, and this is how we do it. So that is how people naturally learn anyways. So children are even more. So you cannot expect children to sit in a classroom and, listen to what you have to say. And what you have to say is not everything anyways. So it's a whole different system today, yeah? So Montessori is quite popular. And Waldorf, there's many different countries. I think in the European countries, you find quite a few Waldorf or play-based approach. There, they don't even teach the children ABC 1 to 3 till they're 7 years old. They only believe in free play, and they believe in nature, and they take the children out in nature, and they also do a lot of art and craft. Yeah, and children learn through that, and it's not like they fall behind when they go to school or something. Reggio Emilia also is one of them. I'm sure there are many others. Yeah, but these are the popular ones. So about the Montessori method, we use many materials. The Montessori method, it encourages movement, exploration, and learning through discovery, because you go to the shelf, the child goes to the shelf, chooses from the shelf what they want to do. They pick up the material, they go on the floor or on the table. They can choose whether they want to sit on the floor or sit on the table and work with the material. And so there's a lot of movement. They have to bring the material one by one to the floor or the table, and then they explore, they work on it. There's a cycle of activity over there, and then they learn through discovery. So as they learn, they keep on, children like to repeat something over and over and over and over again. And that's what happens with the materials as well. They keep repeating, playing or manipulating it. And then one day you see that light in their eyes when they say, aha, it's like, I've got it. You can actually see whatever it is that they are learning, they get it, and you can see them light up. And once you experience that, that is called the Montessori explosion. And once you see that happening in a child, then you know that the child is done with that material. And then the next day you will see the child go to another material and start to work. It's really beautiful. The curriculum is vast. So whether the child is gifted, whether the child is not very fast in learning, they can take their own time. In Montessori, the curriculum is vast. And the beauty is that there is system and order. Children love order. And if there is a system, it's very easy for them to learn. So Montessori method helps holistic development as well. And it is backed by research. And we offer the Montessori training.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. It's a good explanation. I think we can see the potentialities of you can go beyond the Maria Montessori, I think. Right. Thank you very much. Today, now let's end up our session. Thank you very much for participation free of charge.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure, all of you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share. I hope you have gained enough, gained much from me. I'm happy to give you the slides in a PDF format. I will send it to Kumara if you want to just get it from him. Okay? Thank you, and bye from me.